Welcome back to the Creative Leadership Network, right here where I educate to elevate. So this week's episode, let's talk about it. This was an article that was posted through the Washington Post. And basically what happened is that there was an employee that was on LinkedIn that worked for a company. And this employee posted something about bad bosses, right? But they wasn't necessarily referring to their boss. They were referring to Charlie Kirk. All of the stuff that's been trending in the media about Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, right? But at the same time, it was a coincidence because he's having a problem with his employer, right? So his employer kept asking him, "Do you want to be here? Do you want to be here?" And I guess he was saying yes, yes. It doesn't say in the article whether he was saying yes or no, but the employer kept asking, "Do you want to be here?" So what the employer did is what the employer invited him in, and they had a conversation, and the employer fired him. And they told him, "By the way, we saw your post on LinkedIn." And according to the Washington Post article, I'm going to post the link if you're going to be watching by YouTube, that was written by Miss Taylor Telford. That's Telford. Washington Post article written by Miss Taylor Telford. And I'm going to read a little bit so we can get into this, right? Because this is going to be good. Because why is this good and why am I bringing this through TCLN? Well, there's a reason. Because a lot of people are employed and they don't realize that there are employers that are going to be changing their policies when it comes to social media and when you are working for them, right? The person's name who posted this article on LinkedIn name is Chase Thyme. Again, that's Chase Thyme. So let me read a little bit of the article. You are an employer, you definitely don't want to miss this. But if you are an employee, you sure don't want to miss this, okay? So all of that and more coming right up here on TCLN Network. I'm IBK, your host. Hi there, I'm IBK with TCLN Network. So this show is a news educational commentary show. I love to inspire and to educate. So I inform, inspire, educate. Educate to elevate so that we go from situations to solutions. Listen, if you want to find out more information about TCLN Network, just check me out right there at YouTube. Also, you can check out my platform at www.thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com. Again, that's www.thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com. So again, this is an article by Taylor Telford, Washington Post. Let me read a little bit so you can get a little bit of insight of what actually happened, okay? So when Chase Thyme posted signs of a bad boss on LinkedIn last month, he drew on his experience in the military as a freight conductor and most recently with an equipment calibration company. He didn't name names, but he listed behaviors such as peeks over computer and checks work and tells one to find busy work. Soon after, the 37-year-old said he was fired. At the meeting, again, he was repeatedly asked, "Would you like to stay here at the firm?" by his manager. So they decided to go ahead and fire him a little bit later. And like I said earlier, they said, "We saw your LinkedIn post." Now, Thyme goes on to say that even after he was no longer working for the company, they were continually actually monitoring his LinkedIn account. So let's get into it, guys. This is important, right? Because and what happened is that when Charlie Kirk, of course, you guys have all heard when Charlie Kirk, I believe it was during September, he was actually executed live before television or before social media, and people got to see it. Everybody chimed in. Everybody on social media had something to say. People who have heard him speak before through TPUSA. He spoke at many college campuses across America. He's a right winger, according to the media's out there. But some people loved what he had to say, and there were some that did not. And so when he was unfortunately terminated or killed, it sparked a lot of conversations, both positive and negative, and people had a lot of things to say on their social medias, right? So as they were talking on their social medias, what ended up happening is that I guess people didn't know that there were employers that were monitoring their accounts, right? So I guess they just didn't know. And so unfortunately, they started being called into the office, they started being fired, and that's the way that went, right? Or they were being disciplined, right? But I guess they had no idea their employers were monitoring their accounts. And so a little bit later, I'm going to get into a few more stories that this happened during these Charlie Kirk events and other things that came about. So let me continue. I'm going to read a little bit more for you so we can get deeper into the story, okay? Thime's story illustrates how workers are confronting hazy boundaries between permissible and punishable speech as employers clamp down on social media use, okay? Now, I know there are a lot of people that would say they have no business looking at our accounts. Our accounts are personal and we should be able to say what we want to say. um, I would say it like this. When you are working for the face of a company, you forget that I know you say I'm off the clock, right? I'm off the clock. You can't talk about to me what I do when I'm off the clock. Let's just say I work for a firm called, let me think of a really good firm. Let's just say I work for a firm called a CBS, right? Let's just say I work for CBS and I'm Gail King's assistant. Let's just say I'm Gail King's assistant, right? And people begin to know me because, I work as her assistant. And I have a social media. I put a little post up. I'm showing people that, I'm her assistant. I have fun working with her. I do things for her to make sure she moves forward. You understand what I'm saying? And she moves forward precisely, professionally, and we keep this thing going, right? And let's just say I'm up there, and then all of a sudden I just start saying things, right? And I start saying things that don't represent who CBS is, that don't represent who Gail King is, but it could be something racial, it could be something horrible. Let's give Charlie Kirk as an example. Let's just say I didn't like him, which for me, I had no problem with Charlie Kirk at all. But let's just say I was one of those people that I didn't like him and I didn't like what he had to say. And then I blurt out and I say something so raw and negative towards his death, right? I just make this comment that I should not make. Do you believe that CBS has a right to fire me? You know, because after all, I am known to be associated with CBS. I am known to be associated with Gail King. You understand what I'm saying? And guys, that Gail King has been working for CBS for many, many years. And there are certain things that you just can't say. I'm pretty sure when she go home with Oprah, she say whatever she wants to say behind closed doors. You understand what I'm saying? But in the eye of the profession and her as a specific person that represents CBS, there are going to be things, guys, that Gail King cannot say. You understand what I'm saying? And you would say, well, that's her personal life. That's her personal opinion. Well, you're working for a conglomerate. And people will actually, all the people that watch CBS, that support CBS, that, you understand what I'm saying, that invest in CBS. You got people who invest, you got investors, you got all kinds of stuff, right? They may not like what you have to say. So there are some things you have to temper. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if you're independent, you on your own, you making your own money, and even then, your supporters then, because you got to make money from somewhere, they may not like, you're gonna have people from all different walks of life supporting you. We talked about this before on social media. We use Beyonce as an example. Beyonce, when it comes to politics, she's very savvy on what she says and what she doesn't say. Beyonce have Republicans that like her, Democrats that like her, all kind of people that like her, right? So there's just certain things that Beyonce can't get involved in. And I'm pretty sure that Beyonce have her personal views, and you're not going to suppress her personal views. She talks with it about her family, her friends, and she may say certain things publicly, but there and make little statements with symbols and all that kind of stuff. But just to get out there and just go raw, there's certain things she can't do. Why is that? Because she considered to be an asset. When you are a certain level, you understand what I'm saying? You are considered to be an asset. I want you to think about these companies you work for, right? These companies are assets. Do you understand what I'm saying? They are assets. So you have to think about, what am I saying on my social medias? Is that going to reflect back on my companies? Because guys, a lot of you get up on your social medias, you mention where you work. So you become associated with that. Your account's not private, and you mentioned that I work as an accountant for such and such firm. I work as a teacher for such and such school. You are associated with that brand or that name or that nonprofit. So you have to really watch, you understand what I'm saying, some of the things you say. And why is that, guys? Why is that? Let's talk about some of the top Black journals like Don Lemon, some of the other ones that got fired from working at some of the, and not just Black, other people, Como, all these people, right? Because you have to understand, what they don't tell you is that these people have investors, right? So when you're up there saying, oh, we're a network, and we're open, and we like honesty, we like integrity, and we like to be held accountable, but then you say, well, I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna hold Israel accountable, and I'm gonna say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What people fail to realize is that it's a trap. Why is it a trap? It's a trap because when you working for these conglomerates have investors. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is what people don't talk to you about. They have investors from India, Africa, Mexico. It could be anywhere. Do you understand what I'm saying? And when people are getting this information back to them, or when people feel that these people get offended, you understand what I'm saying? They're going to say something. They're not going to say nothing to you because they have nothing to do with you, but it is going to reflect the company. So you have to understand, there are so many different things, right, that you're dealing with, so many different intricacies, so many different systems, right? Now, that's one side of the story. Now, let's talk about the other side of the story, when employers do infringe on employees. That's why I said, if you're both an employer or an employee, you both want to hear this, right? Now, let's talk about this as an employer. Now, is there an amendment right that you should be able to say, I can censor my employee? The truth is that your employee is an individual. You understand what I'm saying? They're going to have things that they want to say. They're going to have expressions. They're going to have emotions. They're going to talk about their children, their families. They're going to talk about a lot of different things, right? But you can't get offended. You understand what I'm saying? Just because you feel, I don't like that you said that. I don't like the way that you said that. I don't like your emotion. I think you're referring to me because a week ago we had a little rolling eyes at each other. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a balance. There's this thing, right, that people have to really, really look at. And so that's what's changing the dynamics between employees and employers. And they're trying to get policies in place within these companies to say, and to sit down with experts to say, how do we find the fine line? How do we balance it all when we are dealing with our employees who have lives outside of a company, what they can say, what they cannot say, and how we as employers are not allowed to just infringe on them just because we don't like that they stuck their tongue out, or just because we don't like that they said, go sit down, or this and this and that. I do personally believe that when you are representing professional companies, I'm not going to lie to you. If you're going to work for these companies, and you decide to work for these companies, you're not necessarily the face. Their PR is the face, but you are associated with their name. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let's give an example. Your grandfather and grandmother is known to be prominent in town. They are known to do nonprofit work. They are known to be very good people with good integrity. You understand what I'm saying? And they do great things in the city, and everybody knows them, and everybody respects and honors them. And then here you come along. You want to be the one that just stands out. You're going to be wild. You're going to curse. You're going to drink. You're going to, slap folks. You're going to act the fool. You're going to be in and out of jail. You're going to say what you want to say. You're not going to filter your tongue. And then everybody says, you know what? That's that person that's kin to such and such. Because they're going to know that, right? That's that person that's their family member, right? So, guys, even though these employers are not your family member, you are associated with their name. It's just that simple. And when you get up on your socials and everybody know you work as a teacher, you work as an accountant, you work as a doctor, or you working at KFC, it's still a company. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't get up there saying, yeah, I work for KFC, and let me tell you what we do in the back room, and if this and if that, just acting, like you don't have a responsibility. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then on the other end, employers, people should be able to be free, and they should be able to be creative, and they should be able to have their own social life without you infringing on it. You just sitting there monitoring them because you're being nosy and you're being in their business. That is a fine line. You understand what I'm saying? That's a very fine line. I don't believe that employers should be able to just sit up and monitor your account because they're nosy and they want to see everything you're doing, everybody you're talking to, everything you're saying. That's a sign of disrespect for your employee. And then when the employees are out there associating themselves with the name of a company, and they're out there just acting up and doing whatever they want to do, that's a sign of disrespect to the company. So there is a fine line. You understand what I'm saying? On both ends, and both parties hold a responsibility. It's just that simple. Both parties do. Now I'm gonna go to this little short break, and I'm gonna come back and I'll read a little bit more of this article, and we're gonna get a little bit deeper into it, okay? And then I'm gonna close it out. You know that's how I do it. Listen, if you want to find out more information about TCLN Network, just check me out right there at YouTube. Also, you can check out my platform at www.thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com. Again, that's www.thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com. So, welcome back. I'm IBK with TCLN Network. I love to educate, to elevate, so that we go from situations to the solutions. Right here on TCLN, I pretty much love to take things that are trending in mainstream media, bring them right here. And I love to pick out those things that say what speaks to us right now in this moment. What are some of the things that we need, that I know that will be beneficial to not just you, but me and us together? Because I'm learning just like you learning. I'm growing just like you growing. And I need this information just like you need this information, right? So let's get into it. Again, this is an article, just in case you just chimed in. This is an article from the Washington Post. Okay. Sensitivities have become more pronounced since 2020 as the rise of cancel culture, coupled with an ambiguous social media use of intensified pressure on employers to take public action over matters that they may have once let slide. According to Adam Goldstein, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. So, again, some of the people who have made headlines, according to this social media and employees and employers, I don't know if you guys heard about that incident where there was a person who worked as an American airline, or Alaska's airline hostess, and she was on her TikTok and she was dancing kind of a little bit provocative in her professional suit that you're supposed to wear at the airlines, right? Now, let's be honest, guys. You know you don't do that. You got the airline suit on, and then you just gonna jump up there and do that. Like sometimes, guys, I made a video last week where I talk about crossing boundaries with culture and professionalism. Like you cannot sit up there and do everything in culture and then take it to your professional position. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't work that way. You're not gonna be sitting up there in your employee suit twerking. You representing their name. You represent professionalism. So when they have those suits on, those suits represent professionalism. Those suits represent honor. You understand what I'm saying? Even though I know that everything that go on these jobs ain't always honorable, ain't always professional when it come to closed doors, we know that. But at the end of the day, you put a public image on, and that public image is professionalism for that company. So when you have their suit on and you're twerking and you kind of dancing provocative, they're going to consider that as disrespect. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's not what the suit is for. The suit represents the image of the company, so that's what I mean by sometimes, guys, it's just common sense. Like, that there are just certain things you guys can't do, right? Also, there was this particular person that had got fired or got reprimanded for criticizing Elon Musk's inauguration salute. So that was another incident, right? So they kind of didn't agree with Elon Musk and they criticized it. Also, there was this attempt about the Trump and Israel Gaza thing and all of the comments about that. So there was a lot that employers were saying, wait a minute, wait a minute. You understand what I'm saying? And I think what people don't understand, guys, is that these employers are indebted. And I really do mean that. They are in debt, and or they have contracts, or they have investors that come from all over the world. Remember, things are global, and they've been global for a very long time. So how do we draw the line? I'm gonna give you an example. Remember when Van Horn, which is a person that works in the media a lot, he speaks a lot, he's a commentator, he's a professional. Remember when he was talking about social media and he was referring to TikTok and these different things we have, and he said some things are targeted and some things are more like of a brainwashing or a targeting or something like that. He said when you're scrolling through your stuff and you see things about Gaza baby, Gaza baby, Gaza baby, and then you see Diddy, 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 he said with all the information out there, and then that's all you getting, he said that's more of a program than that is you having social media and being able to have, social, what you're supposed to have is a social experience, right? That's why it's called social media. Now, a lot of people went into an uproar. And remember, people are quick to fire you when you're working in these arenas, right? But let's be honest. What did the man say that was so wrong? He's telling the truth. Guys, I say it all the time. If you have 10 people lined up, we all stay in the same city. Just line up 10 people. I have TikTok and the 9 people have TikTok. All of our TikToks are going to have different things that is talking to us about. All of it. And it's not just the algorithm. There are things that I don't watch a lot and I've blocked over and over and over and over. But the algorithm won't get rid of it. You understand what I'm saying? Everything is not about the algorithm. He's correct. Some things is just being fed you, right? Think about that. Some things are. So he's correct, and you can have 10 people stay in the same city. You understand what I'm saying? Don't even know each other. And they're going to have multiple accounts because they're having different things fed to them. You understand what I'm saying? Not multiple accounts, I'm sorry, but their accounts are going to say something different. And this is what caused a lot of chaos in our thing too, in our society. Let's give an example of Charlie Kirk. Many people think that Charlie Kirk is so prejudiced and he's this and he's that. Well, there are videos that we were being fed about Charlie Kirk, that other people were being fed about Charlie Kirk. And it's like a stark contrast, right? So for those who feed on race, they are fed with all the videos of negativity about Charlie Kirk, where he said it this way or he did it that way. And then us other people were getting videos about him talking about black babies being aborted and this should stop. Also videos about you know young blacks need people, family, fathers in the home. A lot of that has been lost. They need their fathers in the home, and how some of that music is just tearing them down over and over and over. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do that sound like somebody prejudiced to you? So even though on that end, they're being fed that, and then on this end, somebody being fed something totally different, by the time people come together, you have a whole conflict on the internet. Everybody conflicted. No, he's this, he's that, he said this, and oh, he's this, he's that, he said this. So do y'all see how this stuff goes? You understand that? So guys, this is stuff I wanted to talk about. I want you guys to really, really understand how deep this stuff goes, right? It goes that deep. It goes that deep. And it causes emotions. It causes feelings. It causes people to want to speak. It causes people to want to say stuff. You understand what I'm saying? It causes warfare. And it can even cause you to get fired. And that's what I'm talking about today, right? I want people to understand that if you are deciding to work for an employer, if you decide I want to work for this company, I want to make money, I want benefits, then you're going to have to understand that you're going to be reflecting that company. They're going to be people that know, even if you don't mention it. People see you go to work every day. You know, people talk. They just talk, guys. That's just the way it is. And you have to watch, guys, some of the things you're saying. You can't get up there and say, I just don't like Donald Trump because he A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and he's this and he's that, and whoop-de, 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 and he ought to be stoned and all this so crazy stuff, right? Because your employer may love Donald Trump. And they're going to say you're being offensive, you're being disrespectful, and we don't want that representing our company, right? So drawing the line between what you should be able to say and what you should not be able to say. If you're not employed by an employer, it's your business what you do. That's what you do. You want to be a free agent in a free speech? You say what you say, how you say it, and what you want to say. But remember, most of y'all trying to monetize. Most of y'all want to monetize your stuff. Remember, some of these sponsors, which work with all these companies, guys, is all intertwined, will not sponsor you for this simple reason if you're doing stuff like that, right? Now, I know you say, oh, IBK, that's not true. Because you got people up there that be gossiping. You got people up there that be cussing. You got people up there that be doing all kind of stuff, and they got sponsors. But you know what you have to look at? What type of sponsors do they have? Because they're not going to have very high professional like conglomerate companies. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if they have more independent companies, like say for instance, you promote Black products or something like that, or you promote products that's free agent and free speech, and they are into that kind of stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, then. But you're not going to have Target, Walmart. You're not going to have major companies or major media outlets or different kind of things to sponsor you like that. They just not going to do that. You understand what I'm saying? Because you are representing their brand. It's all interconnected, guys. Those are things that you have to take into consideration, whether you want to or not. You just have to. Now, I want to ask you a question. How many of you guys have actually felt or know that your employers are following your accounts and monitoring you? Right? And how do you deal with it? Do you stay professional? Do you be yourself? You know, how do you deal with it? Like, do you make sure that you keep politics and stuff out of your conversation? Share with people, especially if you're watching by YouTube. Share with people how you do it. Because someone out there, I promise you, needs your help. They need your assistance to make sure that they can keep their jobs. Okay, because again, they're not playing. They're beginning to change policies. Companies are mapping it out. They're changing policy when it comes to social media and you guys being employed with them. Okay, and if you need work and you got them bills to pay, you're gonna have to pay attention to that. You're gonna have to understand that, and you're gonna have to understand what you can say, what you cannot say. Now, again, I don't believe that any employer should be just sitting up there monitoring people's account, being nosy, being all off in people's personal business just for the sake of being in people's business. I believe that is just that is infringing on your rights as a person, as an individual. Like that's just stalking you at that point, you know. And I do believe that there's a fine line between that. I don't know how they're going to handle that when it comes to these policies they're going to incorporate on these jobs, and what actual, I guess you can say, verbiage or printed verbiage that they're going to incorporate into their contracts when they employ you to say, how they're going to deal with this kind of stuff, right? So you guys need to be paying attention to that. And you need to make sure that if you need a job, you're going to have to respect this stuff, guys. You understand what I'm saying? And if you don't want to live like that, because I'm pretty sure, like I said, that you can have is some freedom. You should be able to have freedom and expression and humanity without them infringing on you. But when you're doing things like twerking all over the place, being butt naked, or just cussing all the time, being lascivious, just acting unprofessional all the time, or you just doing things you have no business doing, any type of crime or any type of like really demeaning someone's character, or just slashing and all that kind of stuff, that is a cause for them to stand up. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to decide that if you need a job, you have to make a choice in your lifetime, right? And I'm going to be honest with you. As an employer, I wouldn't put up with that either. You understand what I'm saying? Because that is a reflection on any company. It just is. It's a reflection. Because people will be looking at be like, what kind of people they be hiring? You know what I'm saying? Like, who is these people they hiring? They hire anybody. You understand what I'm saying? It's a reflection. It's a reflection. So, guys, you have to understand that, right? Now, I'm going to finish this out. The First Amendment's only role in the private sector is to protect employers, not employees. The First Amendment's only role in the private sector is to protect employers and employees, states a legal premier law firm from Maynard Nexville or Nexon Steel. I'm sorry, Nexon Steel. Employers should tread carefully in crafting policies. Goldstein cautioned, for companies, the more elaborate you make your rule, the more likely people are to argue with it, Goldstein said. Okay, so there you have it. That's what I wanted to talk about on TCLN Network today, right? And let me give you this one last thing that I'm going to leave you with, and then I'm going to close out, guys. And I want you to be inspired and take this information and consider it and be inspired. And then ask yourself this question. Ask yourself this question. If you had a company, would you want people acting like that in your company on their socials? And then number two, ask yourself this question. When you went to go get your job and you went through the application process and you went through the interview process and you did all this stuff, were you behaving like that? Is that the person you displayed yourself to be when you came to get that job, right? You displayed yourself to be responsible, professional, and all of that. Now, everything is intertwined, like I said. You understand what I'm saying? So when you decide to work for a company, you must recognize that what you're doing all on your socials is going to reflect that company, whether you like it or not. And you may say, but I don't tell nobody where I work, and my account should be my business, this and this and that. You're right. You're right. It should be your business. it should be separate from outside your work. But you have to understand, let's just say you are an artist, right? And you partner with someone, right? And y'all sign a contract together. And you say, okay, I love the fact, you understand what I'm saying, that we're going to work together. You're talented, I'm talented, right? But guess what? That person has a life outside of you and what y'all are doing with that project. But let's just say they're out there chop shopping bodies. They may be out there doing stuff that is heinous. Maybe they found out to be molesting a child or something, or maybe they're doing something like abusing someone or something, or doing some elderly people or something. Can I be honest with you? And then they're on socials laughing about it, this and this and that. Can I be honest with you? Even though you say they have a life outside of you, would you want to be associated with that? You know you wouldn't. And let me tell you why. Because you feel like that brings shame to you. You feel like everybody gonna be looking at you like you like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like you be like, I'm not like them. I didn't even know they was like that. I'm not like that. I just thought, they good at what they do. I'm good at what they do. We got together and we put something together. But now all of their behavior is reflecting on you now. You understand what I'm saying? So, guys, you really do have to think about those things. You really do have to take them into consideration. It's the way it is. I do say be yourself. Have fun on your socials. I do say have freedom of expression, but do it in a tactful way. You understand what I'm saying? Find a way that you can do it in a way where it's very tactful and where you are communicating meaning. You understand what I'm saying? Instead of just out there sprawling. And when someone comes to your social and try to tell you what you can't stand and whether you can be a Democrat or a Republican or whether this and that, then they're going to be the ones who are out of order and not you. You understand what I'm saying? So I wish you the best. I hope this episode spoke to you. And guys, keep warm, keep safe. And let me end this episode with this from a favorite childhood reporter of mine that I used to watch when I was younger. And I used to watch this person on CNN with my grandmother. That person is known as Dan Rather. And he would always end out with saying, until next time, courage, my friends, courage.
Thank you for tuning in to TCLN Network, Austin Public. TCLN Network is independently produced by IBK Media Productions. To support TCLN Network financially, visit paypal.me/TCLN Network. Also, TCLN Channel Podcasts. To learn more about TCLN Network, visit thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com and follow on all socials, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at IBK Media Works.